Welcome everyone in this new video live development about building an auto battle game. In this video we're not going to do anything in the project, we're just going to talk about the tech design of the future systems we're going to design. So it's going to be the systems in game for everything related to game phases, combat phase, recruitment phase, unit spawning, unit fighting, etc. So I spent the week trying to figure out what was the better way to do it, so I'm going to explain it to you in this video. If you're not interested in that, you can skip that video and go straight to the next one. So how are we going to build our system? It's all going to be based off an in-game state, which is going to start the different phase of the game and communicate with the different actors, which needs to be warned about the different states of the game. And we're gonna have an in-player state, obviously, which is going to hold some of the variable we need to display over the network, such as else and stuff like that. We're going to have a shop, a widget shop, in which the player will be able to, from which the player will be able to refresh the shop and display some gold information. We're going to have an in-game player controller, an in-player controller, which is going to display the shop and binds itself to some of the events on the in-game state. And what exactly was it? Binds itself to the game states and teleports on combat phase. Okay, so maybe it's not going to be that link, maybe it's going to be like this link. I think that's a better way to do it. I think the player states, oh no, I think we'll see how that's teleportation, how we teleport the player to the battlefield. Anyway, we're gonna have, so the grid we already have it, and beneath the grid on the child class we add battlefield. It's going to be fight zone now, and we're going to have battlefields, which are actually going to be an actor holding two fight zones. We're going to have a shop, a bench, like we have now. On the battlefield there's going to be a camera pivot, and the grid is using squares, and the grid is going to display dummy units, which are the units we currently have in the game. And we're gonna have some units. We're gonna build things differently that we've done before. We're gonna have a blueprint unit which holds some stuff, and we're gonna have two child of this, a fighting unit and a dummy unit. Dummy unit is going to be the unit we handle while we are at our base, and fighting units are going to be the units you see fighting each other. The reason why we split them in two categories, that's because that one is going to be replicated and that one does not need to be replicated, and we're getting some performance with that little logic. And the grid is going to use an actor pool to handle the units and fighting units it needs to display. So what is an actor pool? So we're not talking about the unit pool of an auto battle game where all players share the same pool of units. In here we're talking about pooling in terms of programming, which means not spawning units but pre-spawning them and using units, using like invisible units like you spawn a bunch of units at the beginning of the game, like 60 units, and you use them when you need to display units. You teleport these pre-spawned units and you give them the cosmetic you want, and this way you avoid spawning stuff at runtime. So how is it going to be? And we're gonna have a score screen, which we already built with a score screen player entry. And so how is it going to be to go? The grid is going to have the ability to spawn stuff. The shop is gonna ask for is gonna be able to refresh stuff in the shop for us to buy. The bench is just going to be holding some unit information. Grids are going to hold all the information about the units they have. The fight zone is actually going to override the spawn function of the grid to not spawn dummy units but spawn fighting units. The battlefield is going to have a reference to the fight zone, to both fight zone it has. It's going to have an ID. Fight zone is also going to have an ID. This ID is going to be stored into the in-game state, and when the in-game state is going to need to match player with each other, it's going to match them on specific battlefield ID. So players will know what battlefields they need to teleport to when the fight occurs. So the battlefield has an ID. When the fight occurs, it tells its fight zone to spawn its units. It binds itself. It keeps track of all units in the fight, and it knows when the combat ends. And the in-game state is actually have a list of battlefields, and it binds itself to the fact that the battlefields combat are over. When all combats are over, the combat phase is ended, and we go on the recruit phase. In the recruit phase, we send client information about the fact that they need to refresh their shop, and the widget shop is bind to the in-game player state event, which says that we need to refresh the shop. And maybe the shop has a hard reference to our shop in the game, in our base I mean, and it tells maybe it's bound to I think it's bound to the player state, not the shop itself. And what else do we have in here to talk about? I'm just going to zoom in real quick. So yeah, the in-game state is going to handle the pool of units which you can buy, the shared pool of units, and it's going to keep track of all played match. It's going to send information over the network regarding what matches are going to be played. Tell battlefield to spawn units. So that's not exactly that. Yeah, that's it. That's how it's supposed to go. Dispatch on match over, on ruined over, I guess it is, on ruined over, and that's pretty much the idea. So the in-game state is going to handle everything. The phase is going to tell stuff to act on their own, spawning units. Starting the fights, registering the fights, spawning units. These units are going to fight. We're going to have some kind of AI. The shop is going to reflect what happens in this shop, and when the player state gives the in-player state new information about units. That's pretty much the logic we're going to build. So hope you guys enjoyed that video, and hope to see you in the next one. Bye bye.